Hello, everybody. I am Pratibha Biswas, and today I'm going to talk about the book Looking for Alaska, written by John Green. I've read this book and I found it really interesting. The plot is amazing, and it is also a very touching story at the same time. So, uh, one special thing about this book is instead of numbering the stories, the chapters as one, 2, 3, 4, and so on, the book has been divided into two parts, before and after. The first chapter of the book is 136 days before, and the last chapter of the book has been named 136 days after. Right. Its intended audience is young adults. Let me start narrating the story. Starting with chapter number 1. Here we get introduced to the main character of a story, Miles Halter, who is leaving his parents and his home in Florida to join Culver Creek boarding school. So his mother throws him a going away party, and but Miles is not at all enthusiastic about it, though his mother is, because he knows that he never really had great friends in the school and no one is going to turn up. But however, two of his classmates turn up, but they were really boring people, and because they did not have a great bonding with Miles, it turns out to be a very boring party. In the next chapter, he moves to Culver Creek. He gets settled in his new dorm room in room number 43. He meets his new roommate, Chip Martin, who is called as the Colonel by his friends. Chip Martin further introduces Miles to his friend group. Uh, there is this girl named Alaska Mary Young there, who is a very cheerful and lovely girl. At the same time, she has a very messed up life because she is very impulsive, very moody, and at some point of time, we even will come to think that she is a very selfish girl. But she was just a human after all, and humans do have different character traits. She was just being herself. So, one thing worth noting about our protagonist, Miles Halter, is that his hobby was learning the last words of famous people. In the school, there are two groups of people. Like the students fall under two categories. They either belong to the rich class or they belong to the poor class. And the Colonel, Alaska, they all belong to the poor class. These two groups did not have very good relations between themselves, and they used to play pranks against each other. In the whole year, throughout the whole year, we find that Miles have a lot of fun with his friends. He gets into smoking, drinking, and he likes violating all school rules with his friends. Miles takes several classes: bio classes, maths classes, French classes, religions classes. This religions class is taken by Dr. Height, and he has major breathing problems. He can barely breathe. But we do get details of his lectures, and the question which he presents before the class at the beginning of the year is that what is the most important question in life, and how has the different religions of the world tried to give an answer to the question. So then there is this girl who Alaska is thinking of setting up Miles with. There is this Japanese friend they have in the friend group called Takumi. The colonel has a girlfriend called Sarah. Alaska also have a boyfriend called Jake. Alaska is that kind of girl who likes getting into casual relationships, but this time it seems like she really loves her boyfriend Jake. So what happens is that they have a lot of fun throughout the year, and they had planned a great prank against the rich brats they had in the school. And they were celebrating one night. On the last day, they were celebrating the success of the prank, the success that the prank will get and achieve. So the colonel, uh, Miles and Alaska drank a lot on that day. They were drunk and they were playing truth and dare. Miles chose dare, and Alaska dared him that he would have to kiss Alaska. Right. Then Alaska ended up making out with Miles, and all three of them went to sleep. In the middle of the night, the colonel and Miles wakes up to Alaska sobbing deeply, and she expresses that she has messed everything up. She has forgotten something and she needs to get off the campus at that very moment. So there was this professor who they called as the Eagle. So because he had a very watchful eye over all the students, so they needed to distract the Eagle so that she could get off the campus. So Miles and the colonel helped her in getting off the campus by cracking firecrackers in front of his room, and the Eagle went following them to find out who was cracking firecrackers in the middle of the night. And in the meantime, Alaska drove out of the campus. The next morning, what happened is uh, the Eagle came up to the room and said they needed to go to the gym room. The colonel recalled that incident like that had happened a few years ago when someone had passed away in the school, and he suspected that Dr. Hyde had died. So everyone came to the gym room, and to their surprise, they saw everyone was there, and after some time, even Dr. Hyde arrived there. So Miles and Colonel did not know. They were thinking, who have died then? What has happened actually? So after everyone had arrived, Eagle asked that has everyone arrived? So everyone said yes, everyone has arrived. But Miles said that no, Alaska has not arrived yet. Please wait for her to come. Please wait for her to come because she has not arrived yet. And tears rolled down the Eagle's face, and he said, I'm sorry, Miles. She had a car accident last night. And Miles and the colonel went to a shock. The whole environment of the school changed. Even the rich kids that were there, who had this relation of enmity with them, came up and offered them cigarettes so that they could get through that grief. What happened? The colonel and Miles, because Alaska was very dear to them, they wanted to find out what was it that she had forgotten. Why was she crying in the middle of the night? What had happened to her? Was it a murder or a suicide, or was it really an accident? What had really happened that night? They really wanted to know. So in the days after, they were trying to unravel the case. So they were suspecting that Alaska might have been feeling guilty because of cheating on Jake, because she made out with Miles, and she must be feeling sorry because of that. The police had discovered white flowers in her car, so it might be that she was going to Jake to give him those flowers to make things all right. Dr. Hyde was done checking all the students' papers, and the most important question, as Alaska had answered, was what is the way out of the labyrinth? And Dr. Hyde presented the question in front of the class and wanted everyone to answer that question because he did not want the students to forget Alaska, so that she will be remembered. And that was an important question, of course. What is the way out of the labyrinth? So while they were trying to unravel the case, one day finally Miles, Takumi, and the colonel find a theory that is, Alaska's mother had died on January 9th and Alaska had died on January 10th. So what had actually happened was that she was in the booth talking to her boyfriend Jake, and while doodling some flowers in Miles' notebook as they had discovered. So while doodling them, suddenly she remembers that it was her mother's death anniversary, and she had absolutely forgotten about that. Every year she used to go and visit her mother's graves and keep some flowers in front of her. So she had absolutely forgotten about it and she freaks out about that. In the middle of the night, she decides to drive and go to her mother's graves to leave the flowers there. So that was a satisfying theory. Um but then what happens is that on the 136th day after, Miles comes back to his room and there he finds a note lying. So the note was from Takumi, and he expressed that he won't be there to attend the graduation ceremony because he had to take a flight to Japan. So he won't be there. And he said that as you all have almost unraveled the entire case, I had been hiding something from you all. That was because you all were not telling me about it. You were hiding it from me, so I have also been hiding something from you. That was that night, even I had seen Alaska. She was looking very sad, and she told me that her mother was dead 8 years ago on that day, and every year she puts flowers on her mother's graves, and she had forgotten about it. So she wanted him to help her get some flowers so that she can go and leave those flowers on her mother's graves. But Takumi did not stop her because she never thought that Alaska will be so stupid to leave in the middle of the night to drive in that drunk state. But she did that and she got into that accident. So Takumi says that, Miles, I'm sorry. Even I have allowed Alaska to go. I have not stopped her that night, but it was hard not to. I know you loved her a lot. At that time, Miles rushed out of his room and went to Takumi's room, but nothing was there anymore because Takumi had already left for his flight. Miles wanted Takumi to know that he had forgiven Takumi just as Alaska had forgiven them for forgetting her little by little, and he comes up with the answer for the question which Dr. Hyde had given them, which the question had been framed by Alaska. What is the way out of the labyrinth? So after that, Miles gets back to his room and sits down to write his religions paper. Even though Miles could not tell Takumi that he had forgiven him, but he had finally got the answer to the question, what is the way out of the labyrinth of suffering? So he gets down to write his religion's paper, where he says that everything that comes together falls apart, and they were little by little forgetting Alaska. So the only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is by forgiving. Miles had forgiven Takumi for not stopping Alaska that night, just as Alaska had forgiven them for forgetting her little by little. So he gets the answer to the question framed by Alaska, but Alaska was no more with them. That's how the story ends. Uh, Alaska really affects all of their lives because Alaska was a very lively and very fun girl to have a friend as. So that is how the story ends. Yes.